Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
Scott and Keith are titterpigs, oh yeah. Keith and Scott are titterpigs, oh yeah. They're gonna talk about sweet, sweet RPGs. And it's the Titterpigs, the RPG podcast. Am I getting paid for this one?
Hey, welcome back to episode 49 of the Titterpigs Return.
With a vengeance.
Yeah. the revenge, the vengeance, and all of it.
Yes, part 3, the sequel, and also the final frontier.
Wow.
Yeah, but hey, we're back, and you know we are back in the saddle. We have a wonderful interview for you all to enjoy. But before we get to that, though,
you get to listen to us.
Yeah, you get to listen to us. You know, doing a bit of the usual paperwork and getting some stuff out of the way. So, hey, what have we been up to? What is new with you? What is new with me? Let's go ahead and start with you, Keith. What have we been up to?
What have we been up to? Well, you just started running us into Pendragon again. So the band's getting back together, yeah? And the knights are all circling back up around the campfire. My knight is being resurrected. Well, no, not quite. He's still buried somewhere in the forest, known as Sir Chicken Shit.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think I had him dumped down the well in Londinium somewhere. So,
thanks.
But
poisoning a well. That's great.
But your family was told you were buried with honors. So.
Oh, well, that's wonderful then. My family's happy, and I'm not. But my squire has since been knighted over the intervening years. He continued training and has been knighted, and he is now going to ride forth and, make his place in the world.
Hopefully he'll last more than 2 sessions. So
I hope so.
It was interesting. Yeah. So all the people who joined in through the Pendragon starter set box set adventure, leading through the first 3 years from when King Arthur pulled the sword from the stone to a decisive battle against Lot. And it then rolls into the Grey Knight, the first published adventure for the new Pendragon. So, not only Keith was returning with a new character, but also our other player, Roy Duffy. Oh, excuse me. His character died near the end of the adventure or of the mini campaign. And he wanted to make a brand new character, which allowed all of us to ride along with him as we went through character creation process in Pendragon. And, whoa, it's interesting. It definitely is interesting. I'm not familiar. I've never played in any of the original Pendragons, so I'm not familiar with how it is. Keith would probably, know.
It's more streamlined than the older versions, so there is that.
Yeah,
I have feelings like getting in the saddle and doing it. Like, it flowed, right? Like it did flow,
right?
The way in which some of the layout, right,
presentation, yes,
the presentation now. So for the record, I've said this a bazillion times on the show, right? I am a proofreader for the product line. But I am not an editor for this product line. I am not a layout guy. I am literally just reading the copy and going, you need a comma here, take this comma out, that word's misspelled. I'm doing the final stuff before it goes. And they can take or leave my suggestions. That's it. But the way in which some of the stuff is arranged did make it a little confusing when we're actually sitting there and doing it.
Right.
You know?
Right. No,
So-
I mean, and it's like that. We experience that in designing our scenario. We've obviously experienced several times in any new games that we play there's a big difference between writing it, reading it, and actually how it plays out on the table.
Right.
And when you're playing at the table, most people become laser focused because you are doing it in real time, and that's when you kind of see the flaws, so to speak. And as
But
Keith
to
mentioned,
be fair, though, let's be fair.
yes,
Layout and layout of the composition and arrangement of that composition is just as much as an art as it is a science.
Absolutely.
And what's good in one book is not good in another book, even in the same product line universe, right?
right.
So,
Character creation process is going to be a different beast in every single game. There's no perfect template that is going to produce the same results in every single game. And so, but I mean, it wasn't a slog. I mean, it is involved.
No, not at all.
It is definitely involved because you are making a very intricate and complicated character, and primarily you are creating the results of the first 14 years of your character's life as they begin to become a knight. And then if you're not using that as your starting point, then you're going through several more years of various advancements and situations.
Right, training and development that you're condensing down into just some developmental decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there were certain instances where an example was given and a description, which was excellent. And then you move on to the next line. It's like, okay, you've told me what to do, but there's nothing here that tells me how to do it. Here it is, somewhere else or further down the line or whatever.
I got to go to chapter 4? What do you mean?
Yeah. So, but no, it was a lot of fun. Roy made a fantastic character. It's Roy, so it's always going to be interesting and different. And in the process, we discovered certain things that can be applied to the return of the pre-gens from the box set, which even though they were pre-generated using the basics of the Pendragon game system, there were a couple added bits of flair, so to speak, that they could add to their pre-gens carrying over that to give them a little bit more oomph. And then we went through the full detailed winter process winter phase. Thank you. And before we continued into the year 513, I believe we're starting, and that was interesting, because there are other things that coincide with that that weren't available in the box set, and some of it applied and some of it didn't. So we just kind of rolled through that, and
I'm looking forward to it. You guys, after my character, 2 characters in fact, died. In the starter set, I had to step away because of some work commitments.
Right.
And you guys carried on, so I sat there in the background, not playing with FOMO.
Right.
So I'm actually really excited to get back into the saddle, literally and figuratively, and play. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. So
what else have you been up to besides Pendragon?
Well, other than some of the games that I'm carrying on with that most of you know about, I think the one thing I'll reference is Dolmenwood. I am 2 sessions into it, and it's
This is your local group?
This is my local group, my in-person group here, and we should be 3 sessions in, but unfortunately, 2 of the people involved couldn't make it for good reasons, I should say. Mino Taki, it's been a long day, but but yeah, I mean the initial read through of it, going through the book, selling the game to them, it definitely was a. Oh, geez, excuse me. Drinking soda too. I am just all over the place, but they were very excited to get into it. Character creation was a wonderful process. We got a lot of interesting characters in there. What I'm doing is generally speaking, for those not familiar with Dome and Wood, it's essentially a hex crawl, so to speak, is what it's built upon. You've got a giant map with these hexes. The hexes are populated with all sorts of, the crazy and interesting stuff you would come to expect from the creator of Old School Essentials in his own personal world. There are published adventures for it, but what essentially is using is a Winter's Daughter as an introduction
Nice.
that takes place on a particular part of the hex or the hex map near the south, and that'll get them through the basics of a lot of the the skills and the system and whatnot as they get familiar with it. And by the time they're done, should they survive, because it's still based on Old School Essentials, so there's no balance and it can be deadly as hell. From that point on, it's pretty much their game. It's going to be, here's the map, here's the world. I'm going to present you with what's happening, what's going on, and you all decide what you would like to do. And and the curtain will roll back and reveal itself to you as we go. So,
Awesome.
yeah. And now also the books themselves are still in publishing limbo. Those who backed it have access to the PDFs, but there's really generally no idea when the actual hardbacks are coming out. So I sent my PDFs off to Lulu, and after they totally fucked up the first print, they did turn around and get the second print correct, along with the other 3 books that I sent them to be printed. And it is a big help because it's nice to have the physical books there for them to go through, and I've got a copy of it on my tablet if I need to. The Game Master's book is extremely dense. I think it's several hundreds of pages. Oof. So it is nice to have that in a PDF form to completely reference it. And the PDFs,
I can imagine.
The PDFs are absolutely beautiful too. I mean, they are hyperlinked with the utmost skill, which is fantastic in a hex crawl style type game where I can open up the hex crawl map, tap on something, and there's several reference points that will jump around the book.
Nice.
Built into it. So it makes it really accessible and easy with the flow. So, but yeah, looking forward to the 3rd session. Spoiler alert. They are down within the mound, below in the burial chamber. They've discovered a bit of lore about what's going on in there. And they are now at the critical point where they've encountered a few things, took a few hits. They're exiting the mound to have a little rest, but some shit's going to go on outside when they return, because that was the random encounter I rolled right before we concluded. So
Nice.
Hopefully they'll make it back down.
Womp womp.
Yeah. So
Nice.
So what else? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, the only other thing I got going on right now is I just got in a review copy from Chaosium of the Age of Vikings. Mm-hmm. Their new, I think it's the only real official BRP, standalone BRP product line game. So
yeah,
just got that in, I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I just started reading it because the book that I needed to read before that one for the interview that we have in the next segment took priority.
Of course.
So, but it's, as I said, it's BRP. I don't have a full grasp of it yet because I've only just started to read it, but some of the elements, right off the bat, just skimming it, looks heavily influenced by, right off the bat, by RuneQuest.
Yeah.
It looks like a RuneQuest, just by skimming it. When you look at the table for the dice rolls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's a critical, what's a fumble type roll?
Sure.
And it's got specials, and I'm just like, oh Christ. Oh God, I hate that. Why can't we just have a hard roll? A hard success. It's a success, a hard success, like they do in Rivers of London. That's simple. Hello.
Yeah.
Things like that. But
Right.
so it has lots of elements like that
Sure.
that make it feel like RuneQuest, but
Right.
very light in that regard.
Sure.
There are some elements that are different. So it has some elements that feel like Pendragon in a sense.
Okay.
Like the stats. The stats are all based on 20 points, not 100 points. So
Okay.
so there are some things that feel like Pendragon, but I don't think they are Pendragon.
Okay.
Although Pendragon is BRP derived too. So
Sure. Sure.
they're all in the same neighborhood.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, the one question I would have is, does it have horned helmets?
I think that was an add-on you can buy from Redbubble.
I couldn't get you into my trap. Damn it. Oh, well. I was going to say, well, if they don't have it, it's not for me. But you saw through that thin veil. So,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I did.
it's interesting. It's not on the top of my list, but it's definitely something that, if I ever get around to or have a little bit of extra money burning in my pocket, or even better yet, I start hearing good things about it, take the dive into it. But, there's several other things that, that have our focus, both, individually and together that
Sure.
we need to work through. So, but enough about us. What is it that we're really doing here today?
Well, you see here, folks, it all started with an email. No, actually it did. But the main segment of our podcast episode tonight is Scott and I had the pleasure and the honor of interviewing Damon and Kasumi Lang. They're part of the production team of the new, let me back that up. It is a Sons of the Singularity partnership with Chaosium project. It is the Sutra of the Pale Leaves.
Yes.
Damon Lang is the project manager on the Sons of the Singularity side as far as the writing team was concerned. And his wife, Kasumi Lang, is the lead artist. Most of the art in the book is attributed to her, and it is absolutely fantastic. And I'm not the biggest of art fans, and I really, really like the art in this book.
And just a heads up for those of you before you dive into the interview, Kasumi does not speak English. So Damon, when we spoke to Kasumi, he interpreted for her. So just to give you a heads up, there'll be a few conversations where you may not hear anything for a while, and that's Damon in the background translating our questions to Kasumi and then getting her answer back. So don't think there's anything wrong with the audio. If nothing comes through, that's just how it is. But you'll know. We'll be addressing her directly on our end. So,
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, let's get into this wonderful interview with both of them and learn as much as we can about the new book coming out called
The Sutra of the Pale Leaves.
After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are, only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
Get into your body's vitals with the Vitals app on Apple Watch.
I wanna get into my body and let my skin do the talking. I wanna feel like I'm myself again.
The Vitals app tracks key overnight metrics so you can spot changes in your health before you feel them. The Vitals app on Apple Watch. iPhone XS or later required. The Vitals app is for wellness purposes only and not for medical use.
I wanna get into my body.
All right, so in the studio tonight, we have special guests with us. We have Damon Lang and Kasumi Lang. All right, I got it right. I did not screw it up. I'm so proud of myself.
Yes, and they are here tonight or today, or God, it's morning over there. So pick a time period when you're listening. But they are with us tonight to talk about the Sutra Pale Leaves Twin Sun Rising, the newest entry into Chaosium's library of games. And we are very excited here to talk about it, get the details, get some information, deep dives, and also answer some of our listener questions that they may have regarding this game, and hopefully not take a tangent down the yellow road too far between Damon and myself if we go to discuss certain things. But if we do, we blame the yellow sign. It's not our fault.
I'll play Ringmaster. Or Keeper as it is.
There you go. So welcome both of you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us on. It's a pleasure to be here. Just a disclaimer, the opinions I express in this podcast are my own. I do not represent Chaosium or Sons of the Singularity, the producers of this book. I'm a merc, not a company man. Just, throwing that out there.
Fair enough.
Excellent.
And before we begin, I just want to give a quick shout out to two of our favorite Sons of the Singularity, Jason Sheets, who coordinated this interview. Thank you, Jason. And also a quick shout out to Jesse Conver. Just in case you don't know who we are, Jesse, it is Kevin and Steve. So there you go. He knows.
Wow, that
he
joke never gets old.
No, it doesn't. So anyhow, what we like to do with our guests, if they're comfortable with it, before we dive into our topic discussion here, is both Keith and I, and also our listeners, are always interested in people's introduction to RPGs, and a lot of them are your basic answer, is D&D, and with my brother, so on and so forth. But there usually is a lot of interesting answers that are always wonderful here. So, Damon, how did you get into RPGs and gaming?
Okay, this is kind of a weird and a little bit embarrassing story, but I don't think I've ever told anyone this. When I was 5 years old, my mom was like working full time, single mom, that kind of setup. So I had a babysitter and, some high school kid, just to make sure I didn't burn down the house or anything like that. And he was apparently a tabletop gamer. And one day he brought over a book called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. And back then, this was like 84, 85. Yeah. So, Ninja Turtles, that was all the rage, and I wanted in on that. And I was like asking him, like, what is this book? I want to play this game. It's like, oh, this is too old for you. It's like, but I was like, without his permission, I was like leafing through. It's like, so this is like, let's pretend with rules, right? This sounds awesome. So I didn't get my hands on an actual RPG book until much later in my life, and I think I was like 11 or 12. But I started playing Dungeons and Dragons with some friends at school, and by the time I was like 14 or 15, I was GMing my own games for like pretty large groups of kids in my neighborhood, and pretty much every campaign that I crafted was out of my own imagination. So I've been GMing for 30 years, plus or minus. Yeah. So.
Well, congratulations for not only Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but Palladium being your introductory, and you still decided to continue on after that.
Yeah. I played Rifts, and it didn't turn me off of the hobby forever.
Wow.
That was sorry, Palladium.
How did you survive not having an index?
Index?
Yeah.
RPGs have indexes? No, that's fantastic. I mean, yeah, I remember, that was probably maybe the third, introduction. D&D was the standard, but I do distinctly remember getting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, getting the original Palladium Fantasy, and me and, my young friends kind of looking at this, this looks, wait a minute, let's just go play D&D. But now, curious though, did you happen to get in on the reprinting of it that came out a few months ago?
No, I haven't checked that out yet, but I'm a little curious. Yeah. If I have time and, yeah.
I'm not curious enough. No. I love the turtles, but I'm not curious enough.
I think it would be one of those for quite a few people. It arrives, they open the box, and they go, excellent. And then right on the shelf it goes.
Yeah. That's where that goes.
That would be me.
All right. So, Keith, why don't you lead us into the questions that we have here for Damon and Kasumi?
All right. So, this is your time to shine, my friends, and tell us all about your opinions and thoughts and feelings on the book. But let's start off by giving listeners the 50,000-foot description of what the Sutra of Pale Leaves is, and perhaps just kind of a little bit of its backstory, like its origins, where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, the idea of this project, it started around 2021, the very beginning of 2021. So Jason Sheets, Sons of Singularity, had been rereading The King in Yellow, Robert Chambers' famous book. And he had this idea: what if we did the bubble period of Japan, the 1980s, through the lens of Robert Chambers' work? And he had this idea for the title, The Sutra of Pale Leaves. And so we discussed it, and I just kind of glomped onto it and ran with that idea. Within a couple of weeks, I had this extensive, I did a deep dive research into the, I reread the book. I reread the Hastur cycle and a bunch of other, King in Yellow related, Hastur mythos related stuff. And I wrote up all these kind of like a brainstorming slash outline, very rough outline of here's all the things we could possibly do with this. And I sent it to Jesse and Jason, and they ended up making me the project leader. So yeah. So, I guess I was the best fit. I've been in Japan for over 18 years now. I majored in Japanese and extensively studied Japanese literature, film, history, art in university. So, I'm pretty much, I wouldn't say I'm an expert. There's always so much more to learn. But I was a pretty good fit for the project lead, I guess. And so where do you want me to go with this? I'm trying to avoid spoilers as to the book
that's
itself,
fair.
but I want to give you as much detail as you guys want.
I would think just a high level, if you can, trying to stay spoiler free, just kind of a overarching idea of what the Sutra of Pale Leaves is. And I know this is probably going to lead into some other questions anyways, but, God, where do we go from here?
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott.
Okay. Well, generally speaking, so, the idea of the Sutra of the Pale Leaves, it's essentially intruding itself within this bubble period in Japan. So, if you can tell them, generally speaking, its current position within this cultural period, this corporate boom of financial success that's kind of going on, and what are the players, what might they experience, without spoiling the adventures here, but what is it that they're looking at when they're introduced into this world? And likewise, from a keeper point of view, a couple things that he might be working within this, because the Sutra of the Pale Leaves is on the cover, so we know that's a thing. We know Hastur and the King in Yellow is involved, and again, when it comes to certain spoilers in RPGs, my opinion is always going to be everyone knows about the King in Yellow. It's not necessarily that the King in Yellow is a surprise, but what is it going to happen over the course of these adventures that is going to, occur. So maybe just a little bit about the period and what the Sutra Pale Leaves plays within in this time period in Japan.
All right. So the 1980s in Japan was it was called the bubble period because stonks were going way up and everyone was having a grand old time. The money was flowing like wine and wine was flowing like water. It was like an explosion of production and creativity, and this seemed like a really good fit for the manifestation of the King in Yellow. So basically the sutra in the campaign itself, it's a outwardly it looks like this beautiful religious text. It's designed in what's called an orihon, which is a like an accordion book. It folds out page after page, and this is how traditional books were made 1,000 years ago in what's called the Heian period. So it's this ancient tome, but it's a little bit different from the traditional mythos tome that you'd encounter in a lot of Cthulhu scenarios. It looks beautiful and mysterious and attractive. It's not bound in human skin and oozing blood or anything like that. It draws you in, and even if you don't understand what you're reading because it's in really archaic Japanese, those who read it feel inspired to create things. It's like they're getting a buff to all their creativity, and they start to feel this sort of unity and enlightenment and pure joy that the book ostensibly promises to its readers. And but that's of course the trap. What the sutra actually is, it's a viral weapon. The reason I made it like this is, I was looking at The King in Yellow, the original text, and like, what really is The King in Yellow? What, the play? Okay, it's a play, and you read it, and it's kind of spooky, and then you see a spooky ghost, and maybe you either die or go insane, right? If we really boil it down, that's really all it is. Of course, there's a lot deeper meanings to it, and like how in the original text the play was, for one reason or another, spreading like wildfire to the point that in the story, world governments were like banning and burning the book. So it's viral and it's dangerous. So those are the aspects that I really drew upon in creating this kind of reimagined version of the King in Yellow's viral text. And I also decided, okay, well, the King in Yellow, or Haster, whatever entity, he who must not be named, is probably smart. He's not going to try the same thing over and over again. He's not going to present himself as a grotesque wraith full of tentacles or whatever like that, in tattered rags. And, if he wants to lure people in and start taking over the world, he's going to change his strategy, right? So with that in mind, we kind of tried to make this sutra more outwardly beautiful, but also insidious. The whole thing about pale leaves. Now I'm going to start to ramble. So
that's fine.
Pale leaves
we're
Japanese,
watching you.
Okay.
Go on.
Pale leaves in Japanese is aokuchiba, which is a very specific color. It's like a palish yellowish green or greenish yellow. If you guys have Photoshop open at home, red 173, green 162, blue 80. It's a traditional color used in like woodblock prints and like kimonos even. And it all shows up throughout our book on like nearly every page. So and it's also kind of similar to the color that old books, the pages of old books turn as they age.
Right.
So, when this color is glossy, if you put a gloss on it, it looks really beautiful. It looks like gold. But otherwise, it's actually not very pretty color. And it kind of ties into this fallen leaves motif. And it represents the same thing as our sutra. It's something that's superficially beautiful. It's like, oh, look at the beautiful autumn leaves, right? But in actuality, if you think about it, it's all decay and rot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. So
Yeah, I picked up on that when you guys you guys have done a really good job of describing it in the book, and its nexus, its origin, the background of the color, the fallen leaves, but the hidden meaning of it, being beautiful, but yet it's really decay and rot. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
yeah, I've got some observations and some questions myself, but we'll get to that later. So it at its core, it is another telling of the King in Yellow, and as far as from a modern perspective, and sounds like the Hastur, the Tattered King, and so on, has adapted because like all things, you adapt or die. And it's not 1918 France anymore, so it's time to turn your game up, Hastur. And if you want to bring people into your the fold and into Carcosa, so with that, there's specifics to the game that we've noticed. Of course, what's referenced online and likewise in the description of the game is there's a particular structure to it. It does follow a standard Chaosium structure, but one of the things that it presents is it can be many things depending on how you run it. Would you like to give a bit of information on these various structures and that the people who are interested and who don't already know about it should know?
Yeah, sure. So we focused on, with regards to the structure, we focused on a few key things. Customizability, modularity, and episodic design. So customizability, we tried to give as many possible plot hooks and in different pathways and intros to each scenario to best suit different player groups, however they want to approach it. So we're beyond the need to, meet the wise old wizard at a tavern. We give a lot of different ways to draw the players into the scenario. And we also kind of took a hint from Masks of Nyarlathotep, like the Jackson Elias. Remember that, that NPC? So he's kind of like the guide and kind of an anchor point for the player characters. So we created these three similar NPCs called confidants, each with their own kind of theme, and they offer even one further way to get the characters from one scenario to another. And modularity. So people have been asking, is this a book of scenarios? Is it a campaign book? It's actually all of the above. The scenarios can be played as standalone.
Okay.
But they also fit into an overarching campaign. Each scenario has like its own kind of feel, and we tried to reflect that even with the differing art styles. But there's a connected thread, a common thread throughout all of them, and that's the sutra itself. Incidentally, sutra in Sanskrit means thread, so and that's not a coincidence. So we tried to make it episodic, and the closest example I can think of off the top of my head, you guys play Witcher 3?
I do, yes.
Okay, so
I don't know.
all right,
I'm the video gamer here, so
okay,
yeah,
great.
go on,
So
sorry.
there are distinct quests that are basically self-contained. For example, the famous Bloody Baron quest. Everyone remembers that who's played the game. But it also ties and flows directly into the rest of the story. So even if and we tried to do it the same way. So you can enjoy one scenario as a complete standalone and, not really worry about the the rest of the campaign if you just don't have time to play all of it. Or you can seamlessly flow from one to the other. And there's all these different possible, depending on how you do in each scenario, that directly affects the consequences directly affect the campaign as a whole.
Interesting, because certain issues that occur with Call of Cthulhu published adventures, and so to speak, is yes, primarily a lot of them are standalone scenarios or adventures, and because of the period they occur in, yeah, you can kind of make them work, but they're not as modular as you describe. But what it sounds like, at least with this, if you do, the first adventure, you can go off and do some other things, but you can always return to this with relative ease and carry on, or you can play through all of them at once in one big grand campaign. And that's a bit refreshing, because a lot of people, I wouldn't say they're complaints, but again, when it comes to published adventures, what kind of holds people back is, I've got all these wonderful adventures, but I've got no way to connect them other than just more mythos, go investigate. No, that's good, because that appeals to so many different people, and there's a lot of people that are going to go, who are listening to this, are going to go, okay, good. I'm not committed to running the campaign. I can do it this way, or I can do it that way, or I can take a break and come back, or certain things. So that's definitely a probably one of the bigger selling points, especially with the Call of Cthulhu and Chaosium fans. So that is wonderful. Now, was that, and this is just a quick question, was this something that you set out to do, or was this something that evolved as you were progressively going through and creating, the Sutra Pale Leaves?
It was kind of an ideal design goal from the very outset. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull it off, because I'm not the only writer. We also have, Jason Sheets wrote a couple of scenarios and in his specific style. Andrew Logan Montgomery, who needs no introduction, he's like the god of RuneQuest award winner. He has his own style. And we have a Japanese writer from the Arkham members. They do all the translation of official Call of Cthulhu stuff published in Japan. So he's like a veteran. He has his own style. So I assigned them all tasks to, write stuff. And then I had to find a way to glue them all together and make it all fit. And that was a huge challenge, but it was also a great experience.
Oh, I can imagine the challenge.
Oh yeah. We sure can we, Keith?
We can.
Not derailing this any further, Keith and I are co-authoring a scenario, Call of Cthulhu scenario, for an anthology. And granted, it's not as broad as what you describe, but just between the two of us, it's like, hey man, I wrote this and you wrote that. How do we get from here to here? And so, it's definitely a challenge.
You're trying to unify style and we get it.
So, all right.
I do have a question though, and it relates to the structure. So, right when you get into reading the book, right, talking about the modularity of it, there's a second book coming, right, and that's raised a lot of brouhaha online, right? Like people are like, what do you mean there's a second book? This isn't, you didn't even list it as volume 1. They're all up in arms. All right. So to put listeners' minds at ease, or maybe to set them off, who knows, right? Who knows where they're going to go. What can you tell listeners about the second volume, if we're calling it that? I know it's listed as a companion, versus the Twin Sons, the first book.
So we originally planned it to be one book, but
I remember.
So it was kind of late in the production cycle when it was decided to make it 2 volumes. The reason it came down to economics and logistics, basically. So Chaosium was worried that if, and this is from what Mike Mason said on a previous AMA, if the book had been just one book, it would have been close to 400 pages, very unwieldy and very expensive. So they decided to split it into 2 volumes. So the Twin Suns Rising has all of the Japan background information, like all the stuff necessary to run scenarios in 1980s Japan. And it has the first three scenarios.
Hmm.
The Carcosa Manifest, the second volume, has four additional scenarios, and uh, if if you play the first, three, you're gonna want these. You're
Right.
gonna want the whole set. And because it really, ties up the campaign with a little bow. And of course, we keep the same modularity
Hmm.
throughout, so you don't have to play all of them, of course. But if you do, it's going to be quite an experience.
Right.
We don't have a release date. I don't think it's been announced for the second volume, Carcosa Manifest,
Just
but
2025 is
uh,
what was been posted. So, but yeah.
based on the play testing we did of the full campaign,
Hmm.
if you start, if you start running it now, if you start running Twin Suns Rising now, uh, at a pace of about one session a week, 3 to 4 hours, probably the second volume will come out by the time you finish. There's a lot of content. So, start now and right when you finish the first half, you'll probably have the second book coming out.
Oh,
That's my
well.
estimation. Don't quote me on that, but
Wow, wow. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
well, interview concluded. Keith, let's get running because we need to be ready for the second one to come out.
Well,
And,
okay.
and Damon, don't worry. Nobody holds people to what they say on the internet.
Right.
So
How about we switch gears a little bit?
sure.
Let's get Kasumi in on the conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not a podcast until my cat Cthulhu comes on
Yeah.
the show.
Kasumi and I love cats. Can we see that bad boy?
It's my cat
Oh,
Cthulhu.
he's pretty. Okay.
Oh, yep. So listeners are used to the cat coming on the show.
Yeah. I don't even bother editing out anymore. It's just
No,
there.
no, we just don't. um, so, so for Kasumi, we know you're credited with the art for giving life to the Pale Prince. And what was the process like for you in bringing the Pale Prince to life?
青くじ場のデザイン、どういう考え方を、
王子
うん、
どういう考え方
考え方、まあ考え方よりプロセス、どういう、
最初は、旦那にいろんなバージョン書いてくれって言われて、もう最初がインド系
そう、インド系とか。
の、美少年を書いてくれ、そういうなんか、そういうのを基本に書いてくれって言われて、そこからまあ、もういろんなバージョンね、書いて、で、その中で、なんか私の中の青口葉の王子っていうのが、なんか頭に浮かんで、特に採用されないだろうなと思って書いたら、彼が気に入ってみたいな感じで、うまく説明ができない。
大丈夫です。So basically, I wanted like a new take on the antagonist, right? So I asked Kasumi to come up with a bunch of different versions, like from like India or Asia, just because that's where the sutra had its roots originally, right?
Right.
So she's a professional character designer, right? So she has this process. She made a bunch of different rough sketches, and they all look great. But she also did one that was just kind of off the cuff, like how she envisioned this pale prince to be. And that ended up being the one I chose because it just, I don't know, something about it felt right.
Mhm.
So there's kind of two different, well, there's actually a lot of different versions of this Prince of Pale Leaves in the book. The one you see on the cover That's how he originally appears. You can't see his face. He's wearing his mask, right?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but uh, after a certain point in the story, during the scenarios, avoiding spoilers here, you know, he mask comes off, and he's this, charismatic, gorgeous-looking, attractive man, right? And that's to appeal as a messianic figure. So the version that she drew really nailed that, what I wanted perfectly. So that's the design we ended up using.
Hmm.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
so it is, as you mentioned, it is depicted, in various styles throughout the campaign, which is kind of how certain other ones have depicted him. He's not always the tattered yellow robed with tentacles or whatever, but there's still the aspect of the mask, and then the reveal. But yours is, the reveal is not this. The mask doesn't come off; it reveals a beautiful person, which sounds like still falls under the idea of the Sutra on how it draws you in with its beauty, but there's always something insidious deeper inside.
Exactly.
And so the other art styles that I've noticed is there's a lot of, I guess you wouldn't call it traditional artwork, but there are depictions. Like one of the big ones is that I enjoy, and forgive me if this isn't one of her pieces, but there's the one gentleman who seems to be sleeping, and he's got this large creature with some mist or something, and he seems to be either taking something from him, soul or whatever. Was that one of her pieces, or is that one of theirs?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that one is done in traditional woodblock printing called ukiyo-e style, and
Okay.
and the NPC portraits in that first scenario, Dream Eater, are also all in that style. So yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
is that
that's
the one that's on page 50? I like that piece.
is that where it is? I mean,
Yeah.
I'll just reference that real quick here.
It's purple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that
Yeah.
yeah, and obviously there's meanings within there and whatnot, the digital clock and certain things such as that. But no, the artwork in it is exceptional, and like other Chaosium
Yeah.
things, there's traditional. It's tradition to have different styles, but this for me, the artwork needs to capture the essence of the book, and and it for me these are one of the highlights, and again, not taking away from any other wonderful artists, are all exceptional. But this is the one where if I was in a game store and I'm flipping through it, this would be the one where I stop and go, oh, I want to know more about what this is. And so, and also with knowing that this was the traditional style of it is likewise important within this. Was there any other input, Kasumi, that as far as your process with the art style, your presentations and various ways of presenting the Pale King? Was there anything else? Like for example, this particular piece, you were provided information regarding the scenarios throughout the book, but did you come to Damon or any of the other people with, hey, I've got some ideas, and this is something that how I've read this. How about we try this? Or was the process, Kasumi, use your incredible, style and artwork, to make my writing come to life, because this, I have no idea where to go with that. So was there interconnectivity between the creativity, or was there some influence from Kasumi saying, how about this? Would this be a good idea?
Yeah. イラストを描いたとき、かすみのアイディアとか提案、を使いましたかと。
私のアイディア、
うん。
なんかあったっけ？
あったと思うよね。いろいろ。うん。
ってないな。
うん
あったかな、なんかアイディア。もう、それこそ王子のデザインじゃない？
うん、そうね。
ぐらいじゃないかな、多分。
Well, yeah, of course, the Prince of Pale Leaves, of course, as I already mentioned,
Mhm.
and I don't think she remembers, but I remember a couple
Okay.
of parts that she had input on, like basically it was mostly me explaining the scenario, and we did Jesse and I did like what's called an ARD, artistic requisition document,
Right.
to like this is what we want. Here's a description of what we need for this piece,
Hmm.
and uh but and we had like kind of a unify, you have to use at least some of these colors. We had like a palette
Right.
for to unify the illustrations throughout the book. Uh, but beyond that, it would really came down to Kasumi's creativity and how she was able to interpret what we wanted for those art pieces.
Okay.
Um, and trying to think of any really specific things. There's oh yeah, there's uh it's more central to the second volume, but it also appears in the first. There's a kind of very unique illustration of a man and a woman in gorgeous, ancient-looking Japanese kimonos, right, walking across a bridge.
The bridge, yes.
Yeah. And it's like kind of a mix of traditional style with a bit of Art Nouveau. And
Hmm.
so uh, that that's one of my favorite pieces, and that was all hers. So
That was yeah, there was no ARD for that. This was just like, here's something and you're like, this is perfect. And as I would imagine from Kasumi's perspective, ARDs are always welcome and tell you exactly how it should be.
yeah, yeah.
No, it's they never go and just give you what it should be. But no, that's fantastic. And a little side from that, I'm sure it's wonderful being able to share the creative process and aspect with your wife. So that's not a lot of people get to do that kind of thing. So
Oh yeah.
I would imagine that was fantastic too. So Keith, anything else for Kasumi? Because I'm kind of with you. I'm don't want to feel like she's being left out, but just want to make sure that we're presenting her wonderful artwork and detailing it as we should.
I mean, I'd like to dissect. I mean, like, I'm not the biggest, like, it's like Scott's a bigger fan of art than I am. Like, I like what I like, and I will tell you what I don't like, right? Scott knows this to be fact.
Yeah.
But going through the book, I like all of the art. Like, Scott will tell you I'm not the biggest fan of anime. But even some of the what, Scott?
Oh no, no! Oh, well, that's right. This is not all audio. This is video. Never mind. Carry on.
Yeah. But even like when we get to the scenario like fanfic, right? There is some anime styled art in there, more anime styled art in there, and even that I liked, right? So I don't know who the artist is credited for that.
Oh, of course, Kasumi. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everything in fanfic. Fanfic is really my baby. And yeah, she did all of the gorgeous artwork, all the character designs for that.
Awesome.
Well, kudos, because that even drew me in. So, and I'm not a fan of anime.
アニメファンじゃなくても、そのファンフィクションのシナリオ大好きだった。
So, but yeah, so I think the last thing on the art side of things, anyways, is more for you, Damon. I saw that you were credited in the credits list at the front of the book for some of the artwork.
Yeah,
as
just
well.
really a little bit. I did like it was kind of this. I kind of want to avoid spoilers because this is in the second book, the second volume. There's some pixel art style work that it ties into a scenario that's centered around an infectious early computer game. So
Okay.
a long time ago, I used to mess around with a tool called RPG Maker. And you can make your own like animated sprites and stuff like that for the characters. So I have a little bit of background in pixel art. Haven't really touched it in a long time, but no one else could really do that work at the time, it was kind of coming down to the wire in terms of both budget and deadlines. So yeah, I whipped up I think it was a werewolf like design for one of the monsters, and
Okay.
yeah, so
Cool.
that's really all that I did.
Right.
Some of the other art was also done by Jesse Kovner himself, actually. So yeah.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah. So the Sutra Pale Leaves, every Chaosium scenario, compendium, companion, and everything, it's not all encompassing. It's specific towards either a certain setting, certain era, certain mythos deity, and people have their favorites, and people, have things that, they enjoy and don't enjoy. But specifically, though, I mean, outside of, your standard Chaosium Call of Cthulhu fan, what would be some of those that might be the target audience that that would pick this up and go, my God, I'm going to take this home and run this now, and you're not going to stop me. But the follow-up question to that, though, is also, if you're not the target audience, if there's a couple items within there that might appeal to other fans within horror RPGs or Call of Cthulhu games.
Okay, so anyone that survived the 80s, they're probably gonna, because the 80s is not just in Japan, obviously. I've heard that other places around the world also experienced the 1980s. So, and it kind of had there are some similarities within the technology. Cell phones had just started to exist, but they were the size of these gigantic bricks. And there were, like VHS, and it was kind of a distinct style in that era, and some of that is reflected in Japan. And of course, anyone who has visited Japan, or of course, anyone who lives here, they're gonna love this. The Twitter sphere in Japan is already really buzzing about this campaign. Sometimes I peruse Japanese social media, and they're all like, when is this coming out in Japanese? And I know of at least two people who've already got the PDF in Japan and are translating into their native language. So there's a lot of enthusiasm. And we tried to give a little something for everyone. If you like tradition, if you're interested at all in like kind of traditional Japanese ghost story kind of vibe, like yokai and that kind of traditional monster, you're gonna like the first scenario a lot. If you're interested in Japanese comics or anime, or the world of like indie creation, fan fiction, you're gonna like fanfic, the second scenario. If you are interested in you want to do a little dive into Japanese organized crime and the idea of people who lose their faces and identities, kind of creeps you out. You're going to like the third scenario, Pallid Masks of Tokyo. And of course, if you're a King in Yellow fan, you're going to see a lot of cool references and things like that. And even if you're not in the target audience, I think I tried to make sure that, actually I didn't even have to, because all of our writers are excellent, the art is excellent. You're probably going to find something that you really like, and you don't even have to be a Call of Cthulhu fan. There's no really mythos baggage. You don't have to know who like any of the great old ones are. Even if you've never heard of Hoster or the King in Yellow before, everything is, well, it's explained as much as it needs to be.
Right.
Of course, there's always a lot left to the imagination, but
Sure.
You don't need any additional background or supplements or anything like that.
Excellent.
Okay. I like that. I like the fact that it it appears approachable, right, by people with limited exposure to 1980s Japanese culture, knowledge, basic interest, right? Like I don't know anything about 1980s Japan, right? I've never been to Japan. I'd love to go, but I've never been, right? So for me, my interest is piqued, but other people may not be. But I think there's enough there that should grab people, whether it be the King in Yellow elements or somebody that's into anime, manga, fan fiction, right? The crime syndicate vibe, right? Those different elements. There should be enough there to grab people. I mean, I would like to think so.
Mm-hmm.
But that leads me to a follow-up question, though. Somebody like me who's never been to Japan, I'm not into anime or manga or any of that. I don't know much about Japanese culture, particularly the 1980s. So somebody like me, coming at this, I don't want to say disadvantaged, right? But I don't have any knowledge. Of course, that also means I don't have any baggage coming at this game, right? Or preconceived notions. But do I need to have, or do listeners need to have any prior knowledge to be able to run this game or play this game?
No, you do not.
Okay.
This is not like a completely thorough deep dive into what Japan is as a culture. That would have taken thousands of pages, right?
Right.
But
Sure.
we provided, or at least we made a sincere effort to give you everything you need to know to run a game in that setting.
Okay.
Down to like what the vibe was like, what people did day to day, what the life of a salaryman, the basic, corporate drone was like, what the kind of hectic schedules that school children had. We touched on the economy. We explained how to get around using like public transport, and we also give you a lot of information about, like, if you want to have like a firearm, exactly how strict the rules are for getting something as simple as a basic shotgun. So there's mechanics specifically for that, and it kind of interestingly, it really encourages the players to try to find non-violent solutions to the scenarios, and we always strove to have a path without coming to bloodshed, because especially if it's the theme of Japan, right?
Right.
So yeah, and we tried not to front load everything, so we gave you the basic information in the first section, the settings section, and we tell you everything about the sutra itself and the antagonist and the cult, and that's a whole thing. And but each area that you visit, that's separately described in the scenarios themselves. So we feel players will have everything they need, even if they've never been to Japan. They don't really know anything about the country or the culture. However, if you do have any experience, that will, I think that'll add a little bit of authenticity if you
Okay.
have visited. So that's also a plus.
Right.
Okay. So that also doubles back to one of the questions we had, I think, from one of our listeners was relating or asking if this was also some type of Japanese source book. So I think that kind of answers that question.
Yeah,
that
so it's not like a complete comprehensive source book, but it gives you enough to run the campaign in this specific time period in the country. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah. No, that's it. And again, Keith and I have kind of brushed through it a few times, and it does. It feels that there's sufficient information there for you to role play, in this particular period comfortably. But that does bring up another topic or another question that we have here is, in regards to that, one of the things is, yes, you provided all these tools to play within the realm of 1980s Japan, specifically, through in this particular scenario. But like with all things, the people from Japan, the Japanese people, and other people through other Chaosium scenarios, there's always a concern of respecting the culture that you're writing about. So is there any specific advice that you might have for people who may have, like Keith may have mentioned, not necessarily knowledge, but also maybe a little bit of trepidation that he's going to play within this sandbox, but do the culture that he's playing within as someone not from there, the respect that it deserves.
Yeah. I think as long as you approach the material with respect and curiosity, it'll be all right. Uh, I suppose that some players might want to make kind of like stereotypical kind of investigators from
Sure.
what they've seen in pop culture. Oh, I want to be a ninja. Well, I'll be a samurai. Okay, I'm going to be a Gundam sumo wrestler or something like that. And I think if you just avoid that sort of thing, you're going to do all right. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
You're going to get things wrong, and that's okay. It's yeah. Yeah, it's okay to not be perfect with your knowledge of
Sure.
the culture. That's even I don't have encyclopedic knowledge of Japan even after living here for 18 plus years. So
Right. I mean,
No, and that's fair.
yeah.
and an example one of our listeners brought up in regards to that, he was more inquiring about the perspective of that particular time, but he brought up the movie Black Rain, if you're familiar with that
Yeah.
movie at all. And his just curious if that was a general reflection of that. I haven't seen that movie in, well, we'll just say a couple years, but a lot longer than that. But yeah, no, I feel that's it. And again, for people who haven't read the book and you haven't seen it, there, like you said, Damon, that there's an incredible amount of detail in regards to this, but it's just enough. It's tools, and you should be able to utilize these tools to play within this, the sandbox, and not come off as a bunch of idiotic people, around the table doing stereotypes. We do that for my relatives from the South, so that's the only time it's okay.
Wait, I resemble that. Remember?
So,
The South part.
but we're getting close to about an hour here, but we do got a couple questions, and also maybe a couple things of our own that we just want to touch on, if you don't mind. If you and Kasumi have, yeah. So, I mean, I'm good. You're good. Keith's the one where he's good, but he's the one on
good.
on the downturn. So I've got a specific listener. His name is J Muck. He runs the Raspy Raven. I'm sure you're probably not familiar with it, but it is a Discord, and Jim runs a lot of virtual cons, and he focuses specifically on themes and games and whatnot. I know one of his was focusing on the King in Yellow, which had a variety of different King in Yellow games, but very knowledgeable guy, loves his games. So he's got some fairly detailed questions here, and one of those is, considering that this takes place in a setting that really hasn't been a focus on within a lot of Chaosium settings, not discounting Miskatonic Repository, but this takes place in the 80s. Were there any rules during the process of creating this game that were modified to either reflect the game itself or the period of time that it takes place in?
Let's see. For the time period itself, well, of course, you're going to have to use the modern character sheet, with computer use on there. That's although computers were really in their infancy at that point. Maybe you can get like a Commodore 64 or something like that, or a very early Apple Macintosh, right? So
Can we make a special skill in the fill-in part for Famicom?
Console gaming. That's
Right.
just dump all your points into that. It's worth it.
That's my
trust me,
plan.
guys. with regards to the setting, so yeah, we there's specific things about getting weapons. There's a specific swords and firearms law in Japan. So if you want to run around with a samurai sword, it's not going to be as easy as you might see in the movies, right? That you have like there's a specific registration process you have to go through.
You have
Vetting.
dashed all of my dreams.
Yeah. So, yeah, sorry. I actually have a non like an actual antique sword,
Right.
and I had to go through that process. So, same. It's even more strict for guns and things like crossbows. And so there's rules for that. There's a suggestion that kind of kind of a Snyder mark. If one of your investigators have a cell phone, there's a keeper suggestion that it loses battery or signal at the worst possible time every time, as you do. And there's also specific rules for how the Sutra of Pale Leaves, the in-game tome, infects people. So normally, when investigators read some mythos tome, there's an immediate sanity check, right? And
Right.
so we avoided that here. So, and we figure, this is a beautiful, attractive book. It's full of wonder and mystery, right? And if the players metagame, we can't really avoid that, right? So if they don't see a number on their character sheet go down immediately, that means, oh, the book is safe to read. So it's kind of a I don't want to say a trap, but yeah, it's a trap.
Right.
And
just call it what it is.
Yeah. Instead, there's what we call this exposure mechanic. So this as they continue to see read the sutra or see excerpts of it or adaptations, this number goes up secretly. The GM can keep track of it for either the entire group as a whole to represent their collective unconscious, or individually, or they can have the players themselves keep track of it and say, "Oh, these are EP. Yeah, that's energy points. That's you're getting this new psychic ability, allowing you to influence reality if you use this power. However you want to run it.
Right.
Anyone who's playing and not going to be a keeper, forget I said any of that. That's just all speculation. The closer you get to 100, the more in danger you become of the Prince of Pale Leaves, our King in Yellow avatar here.
Right.
Just, taking over your mind, and it's not like a ghost kind of possession. He's actually rewriting your synapses and building his own separate consciousness in your physical brain, and eventually he's going to completely take over. So that's the new rule for the specific setting.
Yeah, I love it. I am a huge fan of mechanics like that. I am
as am I.
We're and I don't really think it. A lot of people say, well, it's old grognard nonsense, to hide stuff from the players. We want full agency and full information on the board. But there are certain things that I feel, they may not like it, but to slowly. What do you mean my character is doing this or that? What's causing this? And it adds to it. Of course, every player has their own personal disposition, but I love those kind of things. Most people I play with love those kind of things. And it's no great big spoiler, because it's one of those things where if you don't tell your players, fine. But it's not unlike losing sanity. You do know at a certain point that that sanity loss is going to cause something harmful or damaging, possibly, but you don't know what it is until that happens. So, But it's definitely a wonderful mechanic that plays into the theme of the of Haster and the King in Yellow, just reprogramming your mind, and you eventually you're just one of his. You're another puppet.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
here's there's a kind of twist to that. So,
Hmm.
as the players, and not only the player characters, the NPCs around them, as the infection kind of spreads, as more and more people get exposed and become influenced by the power of the sutra, reality
Hmm.
itself seems to shift. Because let's say one person says, "Oh, the sky is green,"
Hmm.
right? Well, no one, that's just one person's opinion, right?
Right.
Let's say out of 100 people, 99 people say the sky is green. Now what's the reality? You know,
That's a fair question.
Wait, it looks blue to me. Am I the crazy one? What the
yeah,
hell? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
'Cause I
who's
see
going to lose
green.
sand there?
Right.
Maybe everybody.
Fantastic.
So follow up to that
Mhm.
with the kind of the rewriting of like synapsis and the heavy intrusion, as it were, like as the exposure points go up, which is by design, right? Um, in your opinion, what's the learning curve here for like the keeper, like to kind of wrap their head around the exposure points and the mechanic itself, and the effects, and then implementing the effects in it in an organic kind of way within the narrative, because there's like reading through it myself that there's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, but we tried to make it as intuitive as possible. So the exposure points go on a 0 to 100 scale, just like any, skill or stat in Call of Cthulhu. 0, you have no exposure, you're totally safe. Then there's a break point at 50 and a break point at 100. 100, the prince can just consume you. Well, if he can succeed in a POW check against you, and that you're pretty much done.
Right.
Then, of course, you might become either an NPC working for the cult, or the keeper might take you aside and and say, "All right, here's what's going to happen. You're now a spy." That sort of thing. If the group is up for that sort of thing, I know that a lot of
Okay.
groups do not like PvP, so it's totally an option.
Right.
Um, at first, there might be a little bit of a learning curve because there's several different things that can happen with regards to. We give some suggestions for hallucinations or visions at the early stages of infection. At the 50-point break mark, you will start to see visions of the Prince of Pale Leaves. He will come to you and maybe even start to speak to you and try and manipulate you towards his end. This isn't like the old school King in Yellow, where he's just this distant, silent, scary-looking figure. He
Yes.
wants to be your friend. He's going to be your guide. He's part of you now, and he wants you to be part of him. So, and he's going to try and his best to seduce you into doing what you want, or at least trick you, or um, use hallucinations and visions and other things that will gradually drain your sanity as well. But that's another
You'll
story.
have a
So,
good time doing it.
yeah, yeah. So I think there's like a little chart of things that the exposure can result in. So if you just keep that little chart bookmarked or handy somewhere, I think it'll be fine. And
Okay.
if you fudge it a little bit, that's perfectly all right too.
That's fair too.
Yeah, and I,
Okay.
I,
No,
I,
thanks.
I think that description also is a valid point that Keith and I were talking about, as compared to other interpretations of the Yellow King, and how he comes about and produces the influence and interjects himself into people's lives, and eventually brings about the return of Carcosa into the world, and all of that. Is that I think this is another draw for people who might be interested, that this is definitely a different take. This is not the King in Yellow with a car wrap. This, going through this is definitely a different type of intrusion, which should be interesting to a lot of people who love this kind of thing, because it's in my opinion, but I think Keith's probably also, this is a bit more aggressive. Like you mentioned, he's just not sitting in the background. And I think this also reflects of the time period. This is an aggressive period of time, not only in Japan but in the 80s. This is greed is good. This is a time where people were working, 20 hours a day, coming home, washing their clothes off, saying hi to their wives and kids, and heading right back to their corporate masters to produce more, financial success for them and for their, for their company.
Exactly.
And so you can definitely see this era is just ripe, to swoop in and just corrupt it, to the, as much as it wants. So, so again, everything about it just screams, this is an exciting new fresh take on a trope that's been around for a while in a period in time that doesn't have a lot of focus on it. So there's all these wonderful things that should draw people to it.
Yeah, and if I can just go off on an aside for a moment. So
Yep.
the 80s, especially in Japan, it has that, that veneer of gold, right? All so much excitement and extravagance but underneath there is that foundation of rot. People are work
Right.
like being overworked. Businessmen in Japan, they maybe get out of the office. They can't leave until their boss leaves, so they get out at like
Right.
8, 9 p.m. Then they have a mandatory drinking party. They get wasted. Almost, it's almost enforced, right?
Right.
And then they have to get up the next day and do it all over again. So. And students are similarly overworked. They have club activities after school until 5 or 6. They have cram school, right? So everyone is just focused on produce, 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 consume, consume, consume. They're going to look for some escape, some
Right.
support structure. And that's where the cult comes in,
Right.
So when you think of cult in the traditional Call of Cthulhu kind of setting, you might think, dancing naked with bone necklaces around a bonfire, or like, kneeling before a sacrificial altar saying, yeah, yeah, Cthulhu Fatagan, right? No, modern cults are a lot more insidious. They get into finances and politics, and
Right.
they make themselves attractive. They try to make themselves look mainstream and have that appeal. And the
Mm-hmm.
cult of Pale Leaves, the Association of Pale Leaves in this book, is exactly that. And I did a lot of
Right.
research on modern cults, specifically a few very dangerous ones in Japan and Asia, and also
Right.
they've gotten their tentacles into America as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I used that as inspiration for this Association of Pale Leaves, who form around this book and their messianic leader, the Prince. I think
Excellent.
you're going to have a good time with these guys as antagonists.
Yep. Excellent.
Awesome sauce. Scott's going to run it for us.
What? Sure. I guess. Well, Keith, do you have anything else to ask or inquire about? And
I think we've hit all the big rocks I wanted to ask about.
Okay.
We talked about the art.
Mhm.
We talked about being respectful of, the culture and not being an asshole.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
not
Good
playing
life
up the
rule.
stereotypes.
Yeah.
We've talked about the mechanics. I think we've hit all the big rocks.
Damien, anything that you'd like to add that maybe we didn't touch upon?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't.
Mhm.
Well, okay, yeah, one more thing.
Sure.
So with regards to,
Absolutely.
I mentioned, the modularity of the scenarios.
Right.
And one thing I tried to do with the structure is make sure that the player's choices matter. That
Okay.
they're not being railroaded into absolute doom. Although those scenarios can be fun sometimes,
Right.
Uh, I wanted to give them lots of different possibilities and different routes to their objective. So I enforced that with our writing team. So I was inspired by the way that Japanese indie Call of Cthulhu writers do their scenarios. I've read a bunch of them, and they at the end of the scenario they have a list, like kind of a bulleted list of different possible outcomes, like a list of endings, like as a
Really?
template, and they all have like a number or a title. So players can report how their group ended up on social media without actually spoiling
Oh.
anything. Um,
Oh.
so I took that hint from the Japanese community and I
Keith makes
incorporated it into this
notes.
technique.
Right.
So yeah. So there's all these different routes and different endings, and each ending has an effect on the overarching campaign. That was a
I
big
like
design
that.
goal for us.
I like that, and and I like that approach. I mean, with social media, one of the biggest issues, in not in general conversation, or even in reviewing a game, which Keith knows well, I know also, is can you discuss a game with other people who haven't played it without spoiling, which I know you've kind of been concerned with through our conversation,
Yeah.
but more importantly, just once you've played it. And I like that approach of like, this is number 12 or 13 or whatever. That's where we ended. And
Now I see the numbering.
Yeah.
Now I see the numbers.
And, but no, so many things we have to learn, that we can do things, differently
Why do I
and
not
better.
recall these numbers?
Huh?
I don't recall the numbers. So for listeners that don't know, because I don't know that we didn't mention it yet, and I don't know that we've mentioned this in the past. For the record, I probably should have said this up front. I did edit 2 of these scenarios.
Oh God, here we go. Name dropping.
Early on.
Yeah.
Damon probably remembers.
Yeah. So yeah, I do actually. So this was I did it for my scenarios at first, and I believe Terada, a Japanese writer, also did it for his. So but
Right.
I made sure that late in the editing process, I think when
You unified it.
yeah, when Karis McDonald was having her go at it. By the way, excellent editor, and whatever Chaosium is paying her, they need to double it. She's wonderful. Yeah, so we late in the process, we made sure that each scenario had that scheme with the multiple endings.
No, it's good. I like it.
Excellent. So many great things to draw people in, and it's I think just from your perspective, from what we've read so far, definitely worth people's time, people's dollar, because we all know our dollars are being stretched extremely thin these days. That it does definitely seem like that this is worth your investment if you're looking for a definite different take on the King in Yellow, a different period in Chaosium, and also a lot of wonderful mechanics that you can utilize. Even you can get that out of this game. If anything, you can walk away going, "Wow, I like how to structure the endings for my scenario. So maybe I can take that from this." So fantastic, and this is. Such a joy. We love interviews. We love talking to people, about their games, and it's always helpful to have people be enthusiastic and know about their game. Sometimes things don't go, but this is they know who I'm talking about. But I'm joking. Everyone is wonderful. But I just want to take a quick moment to address those who sent us their questions. Fabio Villano, Phil McClory, and J-Muck. I hope that you were gracious enough to write us with questions, and I hope that they were answered. We definitely feel like they were. So, but
if not, send us email and yell at me. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not them.
I'll take the brunt of it.
I do have one final question. This is for Kasumi. Chaosium does have a tradition providing prints from the artwork of their books. How can I get a print of some of the wonderful artwork that's within this book? Is that something that's a possibility? And if we need to discuss it after we're done recording, so Chaosium doesn't hear anything, we can do it then. Just joking. But yes, I am curious though. So is there? I mean, is her artwork available outside of what's being presented within the books?
本の印刷、イラストの印刷もらえるかなという、
誰が
かすみのイラストの。
を彼に
Yeah, so we don't actually know. Technically, Sons of the Singularity owns the rights to those illustrations.
Yep.
We do want to make them available somehow.
Sure.
I actually have the book cover as my desktop wallpaper right now.
Good.
His privilege of being married
Right.
to the artist.
Right.
The cover of the second volume, Carcos and Manifest, also done by Kasumi, also has the same full HD kind of wraparound effect. So either of these would make amazing desktop wallpapers, in my opinion.
Yes.
We hope to. We're going to get on Jesse and Jason's case and clear it with Chaosium and see if that can happen. Because that's something I want to happen. In the meantime, Kasumi has she posts her art on Pixiv. It's an art sharing site in Japan, and you can go and browse what she has
Okay.
for your leisure.
We will definitely get that link from you, and we will post it in the description. Both the audio and also our podcast, which pops onto our YouTube channel from the RSS feed. So, again, Keith, anything else?
No, other than thank you for taking time out of your busy Sunday morning, because I know it's Sunday morning for you guys, to hang out with us and talk about the book and just spend time with us. Appreciate it.
No, thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And I'm really excited to see what people do with the Sutra of Pale Leaves. I'm going to be ego searching as soon as the release date hits. And I hope to hear some good things about the book.
Yes.
Well, I hope you do, because I'll have some good things to say, I hope, soon, because I need to finish reading the book and then figure out when I'm going to run it. So
yes. And anytime, both you and Kasumi are welcome back anytime to talk about any other projects that come up. Obviously, when the second book comes out, if there's anything else you would like to discuss in detail on there, you're more than welcome to come back. And so, and yes, definitely, tell Jason, we are interested, that Keith and Scott said, get off and do something about the artwork, and tell Jesse that Kevin and Steve said, get off your butt and do something about the artwork. So, but everyone, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and we hope that we provide you enough information to get you to go out and get a copy of this book and get it to your table and play this wonderful game. So, Keith, what do we have going on next?
What do we have going on next? I think right now, we're going to ride off into the sunset. I think that's going to be our jam.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, unless you got something you're hiding from me, I don't know.
In case you haven't figured it out, we're horrible at endings. So
no, we really suck at this. Intros we're good at. Endings we suck at.
But again, everyone, thank you for listening. Damon, Kasumi, thank you so much for joining us this evening, this morning, and go out and get this game and support these two wonderful people. Hey everyone, Scott and Keith here, and we're just jumping back in at the tail end here to bring you an email correspondence we received from Damon and Kasumi shortly after we finished recording, touching on some additional context regarding Kasumi's art and something special she did with one of her pieces in the book.
So the email we received reads as follows. When she was designing the Baku, the monster in the Dream Eater, the tapir-looking thing, a lot of the aspects of the creature are her own idea. The tongue for probing into minds, the multiple eyes are for seeing many dreams at once, the bumps on its body are where it stores the dreams it eats, the purple color is opposite to the king in yellow, and like I said, she's a master at character design. The funny thing is, her original draft of the monster ended up looking too cute, so we further developed it into a scary design in the final product. However, you can still barely see the original design as a mascot on this on a sign on the back cover, and that was her idea too.
Very, very cool. So grab your book, your PDF, and see if you can find that little Easter egg. And thanks again, Damon and Kasumi, for joining us on this interview. And also, we would like to note that the physical copy of the Sutra of Pale Leaves, Twin Suns Rising, becomes available June 11th. So head on over to chaosium.com or down to your friendly local game store to support your local community. And listeners, thank you to one and all, and as always, happy gaming.